Hello everyone, my name's Tyler. Welcome to another episode of Fortnite Battle Royale Ideas, the series where you give your ideas for Fortnite and I'll give you my thoughts and implementations on the ideas. In today's video, we will be discussing the idea of a flamethrower. The idea is mentioned by Gandalf LC, who says, add a flamethrower that would use a new type of ammunition called fuel. Sentinelic Torgin IGF says, I think they should add a new orange ranked only flamethrower. WPK comments, flamethrower, a legendary weapon that uses rockets as ammo. It fires a constant flame for a couple seconds that sets things on fire. Fire works as a 3-second poison on enemies. The normal damage would be 20 to 40 plus the burn with 3 damage per second. The balance would be that the weapon is rare, heavy, and close range. And Floor Carpeting, who writes, idea for flamethrower. The flamethrower has a small range and does damage of time. It starts with maybe 100 to 200 ammo and consumes 10 ammo per second. Gas canisters will be legendary ammo that spawn that will refill the flamethrower. It will do 5 per second in small second long ticks and the enemy will be on fire. After you stop shooting the flame, it'll last for 5 seconds. Multiple people can be hit by the small cone-shaped fire, and it would be epic and legendary. Thank you everyone for comments on the flamethrower. For anyone new commenting about a Molotov grenade, make sure to check out my grenade ideas video, as I do mention the idea in there, and I'm sure a lot of the effects of the flamethrower could apply to the Molotov type grenade mentioned in that video. In the background, you're seeing some duo gameplay where we could not catch a break. We drop in at the docks of Loot Lake. I barely managed to pick off a guy going for a purple scar, pick it up myself, take down the duo. Me and my buddy are now stuck at 10 and 30 health. After grabbing a loot drop and some bandages, we immediately lose all of our health again. He goes down. As soon as, and I mean as soon as he's revived, we are forced to engage the people trying to clean us up. He goes down again as he didn't have time to heal up. And after we take them down, the same scenario happens again, and I kid you not, again. If you enjoy the gameplay, give the video a thumbs up. A flamethrower could be a devastating weapon, a mechanically game-changing weapon, or simply a unique alternative to the shotgun and other CQC weapons. Let's go over the possibilities. For it to be devastating, it would have to have a lot of damage output, whether that be in the form of sustained damage or not. Mechanically, it could be different in that it would do damage to structures. I'm thinking you could light things on fire. It could also be added in as something that's more common, doesn't do a lot of damage, isn't better than any current weapon, but in the right situation it can help out. I think the first thing that needs to be addressed is what ammo type would it use. It doesn't make sense to use any of the current ammunition types, so like most of the comments have said, it should use fuel. That makes perfect sense. The only thing is now you've added an entirely new thing into the game. That's not a bad thing by any means, but it does have slight concerns about it being convoluted and probably less of a likelihood that it would be added into the game. But imagine the additional gameplay options it would open up. Sure, it could start with fuel in its canister, or magazine if you will, and sure, you could maybe find fuel in chests. But what if you could fill up your canister at gas stations? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as the game stands now, there are 4 gas stations on the map. One at Tomato, Retail, Greasy, Pleasant. Not sure if there's one on Tilted, but that's at least 4 stations that are equally spread out across the map. What if you go to said gas station to fill up your weapon? This would be you reloading your weapon, so to speak, and would function like putting on a bandage where it takes time to pump the fuel. Depending on how good the weapon is in general, would determine the time and capacity, but generally speaking, I think it should take 15 seconds to fill up from empty to full, and you could stop it midway through. So it basically fills a certain percentage of your canister every second. This would make specific locations more important. This might also mean that someone who didn't find a flamethrower early might knock down the gas stations closest to them to prevent someone else from being able to fill up. Even before using the flamethrower, the meta has already changed to some level, and I think that this is a good thing and keeps the game engaging. As far as damage goes, the flamethrower can go one of 2 ways. It can have a high damage output initially, and then have minimal sustaining damage as the player is on fire, or it can have minimal initial damage output with a substantial amount of damage over time. I prefer to have a very minimal damage at the start, followed by a minimal damage that stacks greatly over time. Being one shot with a shotgun so often is annoying enough as it is. I don't want another item that deals high burst damage so quickly. That's not to say a flamethrower couldn't have high damage output though. Here's what I'm proposing, and I'm generalizing here as it would depend on range and spread and other factors. If you hit the player while they are not on fire, they would take an immediate 20 damage. Then they would take 2 damage every second for 30 seconds. So what this means is that you could hold your flame on someone for any amount of time and it would still only do that base damage of 20 with dot. Let's say you hit them consistently with the flame for 5 seconds. They're going to take the initial 20 damage, along with 10 damage for the 2 damage every second from that initial hit until you stopped firing. Then they will take a total 60 more damage over the next 30 seconds from the sustained damage that the flamethrower does. That's 90 damage total. Being able to unload a steady stream of fire within a room that constantly did damage would be ridiculous, unless it of course only did 1 or 2 damage when you hit them. That's a different story. The way I'm thinking this weapon would work is not to unleash a constant stream on your enemy, but to rely more on that damage over time attribute. At first glance, only being able to hit them for 20 while they're not on fire isn't all that much because you won't be able to do that 20 damage again for another 30 seconds when they're no longer on fire. But think about what that would do for an engagement. If I was on fire, I would panic, just like it can be easy to panic when fighting in the storm or when someone's destroying all of your construction. What else happens? Well, usually when someone is low on health, they're going to retreat or try to avoid the fight. This is something you may have to keep in mind while fighting. You may still be at 70 health, which would give you some level of confidence as you still have a few more shots you can take before you're downed, but now you have to be wary of the fact that you're still going to be on fire for the next 20 seconds and take another 40 damage. That can mean that because you stuck around and finished that player off, taking a shot or two in the process, that while yes you killed him, in the next 15 seconds, you're going to die because your health is ticking down. So you can see as proposed here that it's not so much a high burst damage style weapon, but something more focused on damage over time that may sway the fight in your favor not necessarily because of damage dealing, but because of how they're going to react, knowing that even if you miss your whole clip of the assault rifle you switch to, they are still taking damage. I'm thinking this would be a short-ranged weapon, something like a 7-meter distance, something that could reach up to some low-level vertical areas and about the length of a house. It comes out in a narrow cone, allowing you to more easily hit what's in front of you. So maybe the damage numbers I presented to you seem a bit strong. Think about this before I tell you my idea on how to cancel the damage over time effect. If someone has the flamethrower out but doesn't switch weapons after they land that initial hit, you're going to down them with any weapon much faster than that 2 damage a second is going to finish you off. Is that enough to make the flamethrower not overpowered? I don't think so. These numbers seem strong, too strong in my opinion, but balanced when you factor in the ability to cancel this damage over time effect. Canceling the sustained damage of the flamethrower can be done by touching water on the map. That could be done from a fire hydrant, river, lake, mire, etc. Or could be cancelled by applying a bandage or medkit. It could be cancelled as soon as you start to apply the bandage or after it's complete. Other balancing factors could be the weapon is heavy and therefore you run slower, like with a minigun, and maybe you have a canister of fuel attached to your back that would blow up dealing damage after it itself takes damage, making this a very vulnerable weapon to use. What if you could set things on fire with the flamethrower? This would be completely game-changing. Whether that's only player construction or also includes trees and buildings already on the map, I think it should be wood only that is burned. I imagine a flamethrower wouldn't make as much sound as a bullet, so maybe you could more stealthily take down a wooden base, or simply blaze a house someone is hiding in, forcing them to come out. Of course, if this was a thing, they would have to figure out exactly how it spreads and at what rate. I would think anything made of wood touching what is already currently on fire would also catch fire. Then if you were to touch something that was in flames, you would take 2 damage a second, but only for 15 seconds and maybe only an initial 10 damage, so half the effect of being hit with a flamethrower. Wood would burn either for the 30 seconds the player would have if shot by it, or until it's burned up completely. If it was until it was burned up completely, you could keep something on fire for a long time. This would be great for when you're building a ramp or a bridge. You could torch behind you and anyone coming up would have to walk through the fire and take damage. They could try to build around, but if it's connected to something already on fire, it would immediately catch fire. You may also be able to stop people from rushing you by lighting a series of walls you put up, cutting off access from that area. I really like the idea of an AoE that would cut off enemies, but I do think it would be hard to implement into the game. What do you think of the idea of a flamethrower and in the ways I presented? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video with your friends. If you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for Fortnite and all things gaming. This has been Toast, and I'll see you on the next video.